right. Good evening, folks. Welcome to Monday Night Law. Here was this February 26th, 2024. Boy, time's flying, isn't it? A little bit of a small little earthquake here in Idaho this morning, along with some rain, and then turned into snow. So, been quite an interesting day here in Idaho, let me tell you. It was about 47 miles north of Boise. It was a 4.9 or 4.7, something like that. So just a little nudge here in Boise, but I felt it. Having coffee this morning down with my uncle, and it was quite interesting. Just a little something crazy. No, not typically that we have an earthquake and snow in the same day. To answer your question over there on Telegram, is that common here? No, not typically. A few years ago, we had a pretty good sized one that hit Boise pretty good. I was standing by the front door when it all went down there. No, ever since this whole deep underground military bases being explored and exploded, blown up, that kind of stuff, haven't had a whole lot of earthquakes here in Idaho. Brother Diesel D's, good to see you. You're out there on X tonight. All right. YouTube Cat, good evening. Oh man, I had to take a week off, take a break. I'm about ready to actually take a good sized break, probably a couple of weeks. I'm gonna go head south, folks, and probably do some work while I'm down there. Work with my hands a little bit, do some remodeling. Grandma and them bought another place down there in Arizona, so they've been busy down there remodeling it. I'm going to go down and help finish up, do some countertops and some tile work. So I'll be taking a little bit of time off, go enjoy some really nice weather down there, and hang out with my mom and grandma and have a good time. So, not sure exactly when that's going to happen. Probably here in the next week or two. So, of course, I'll let everybody know. But yeah, good times. I'm kind of getting a little cabin fever here in Boise, Idaho. Being stuck inside all the time with this crappy weather. Although the last 3 days is pretty nice. I did get outside a little bit, but right back to rain and snow. But that's pretty typical for Idaho. So at least the last couple of years we've had snow clear up until June. So who knows what it's going to be like this year. Right? Yeah, it's like Mom's been telling me it's like getting up to 80 degrees down there in Arizona right now. So yeah, it would be nice to go have some warmer weather and get out in the sun and maybe, get a little bit of a tan going. Yeah, lucky you over there, Leslie in Missouri, 75. Yeah. Look, it's 40 degrees right now here. Good times though, this part of living in the mountains, Right? Diesel D's out there on X. Overdue for a break. I'm feeling kind of kind of burn out, burning the candles at both ends, and just again, it's just that little bit of cabin fever, and need to break away for a little bit. Miss my mom, miss my grandma. Go visit with some family, and next year I'll probably actually go down for a little bit. Now that we'll have 3 places down there, so we'll see how this all works out. But comment question out there on YouTube: is the Common Black Book one or more? How much does it cost? Maybe you're talking about Blackstone's Commentaries on the Law of England. There's 2 volumes, 4 books. I have not yet been able to find those. I haven't really looked that much, but yeah. Yeah, we've been having pretty good weather the last few days here in Idaho, and then it's just winter's not over yet here in Idaho. So I don't see my brother Rob on here yet, but there's some books for you, brother. Find those. Blackstone's Commentaries on the Law of England. Somewhat older the better, but yeah, those would be good ones to actually physically have. Being I like to actually have books. You know, that was Lex Parliamentary Americana, and then these 2 here. There's a Spirit of Laws by Montesquieu. Got both of those. There's 2 different books there. Good reading. Need to preserve this stuff in case, I don't know, things just go bye-bye. But yeah, I hope you're all enjoying your days there and wherever you're at. I don't see Cece out here yet either, from Alaska. Of course, I don't see any comments from Facebook on here yet, so I don't know what's going on there. But Rumble. But yep, okay, it's working on Rumble. Got 1 comment out there. Amundsen. Good Monday to you. Yeah, absolutely, huh, brother? We are ready for the storm. Out there on YouTube, Robert, you're talking about Trial by Jury is a 2-part book. Are you talking about the one I have, PDF-wise, is Lysander Spooner's essay on the trial by jury? Not aware that it's a 2-part book, but obviously you are, so that's good to know for people out there who want to get that book. I think Lysander Spooner's essay on the trial by jury is a very good read for the simple fact that he exposes how they've even corrupted translating from the Latin into English from the Magna Carta, which most of us are aware of, that's what they do throughout history, is they want to rewrite it so that it, especially when you're talking about Magna Carta, the Great Charter of Liberty, boy, did they want to alter that. And I mean, I've busted law.cornell.edu rewriting their annotated constitution to take away some of the verbiage in there that, like one of them on the right to speedy trial, they cited originally was, went back clear back to the Magna Carta, to the Virginia Declaration of Rights, into the Bill of Rights. But I've exposed them for what they're doing there. by going and using the Wayback Machine and going back to where it was written that way. And it's funny because got all sorts of people who watch my shows here, the good and the bad. It makes you wonder, why are they watching? They're watching so they can, oh crap, he found this good stuff here that exposes the truth, that, some of our rights go all the way back to the Magna Carta. We got to get rid of that. Well, the thing is they were citing from a case, Cloffer versus North Carolina. So I went and found the case, and lo and behold, there it is, right in the case, in the opinion. So, this is the thing that we have to read from, is some of the cases, and then look at what they're citing as a source of law, point of law, and then go to that point of law. Whoa. John Boat International from Dubai, huh? Wow. That's a little ways around the world, or across the world, however you look at it. Thanks for being here. Jax, there you are. Good to see you. Good stuff, though, folks. Kind of want to reiterate that a lot of what's going on out there with Trump's cases and stuff, this is all to wake the people up. Okay, there's a lot of stuff out there that's not real. I mean, I guess I should clarify what's not real is that certain actors out there, and I mean actors, certain people that we think are still alive are not. They've been replaced with actors. And, there's videos floating around out there that will put what they originally look like and who the actor is now, what they look like, and you can clearly tell the difference. And there's quite a few people out there that we think are still alive that are in certain high positions that are all they've been replaced. They're actors. Therefore, again, it's all just a show, folks. And I've laid this stuff out before, going clear back to 2017 when I first started doing lives in September 2017, when some of this stuff was coming out, executive orders and proclamations and memorandums from Trump administration. Those two federal directives, continuity of government. And the main executive order there, 13818, blocking the property of those involved in serious human rights abuse and corruption. That executive order keeps getting extended because there's still corrupt government that needs to be taken down. Gee, I wonder, do we have a corrupt government, folks? Does anybody agree with me that we have a corrupt government right now? That we've been subjected to corruption, to serious human rights abuse? Because if you do, you need to understand Executive Order 13818, that is to go in and take down bad governmental regimes and institute new government. That's been happening since December 20th of 2017. So, just because you may not be aware of it, doesn't mean that it hasn't been happening. So, don't be surprised when something major happens here fairly soon. There's a lot of things that we can find that's not through mainstream media. That's not necessarily being leaked out, but we're being informed of by other people that are informed, that have some of that inside knowledge. So, isn't that interesting? Comment over here on Telegram. Trump made another post about bills of attainder being unconstitutional. Now I'm going to go back just a little bit in history here, because back in the day when Chris and John and I were all together here doing Mondays, Wednesdays, and Friday nights, 3 nights a week, trying to educate the people, and again, we were studying and learning at the time as well. I don't claim to know it all, never have. No man shall know it all, but make no mistake, we've been trying, and I certainly have been seriously trying to learn as much as I can learn, and read and read and read and read. But there was a point in time there where Chris informed me. It was like saying, hey, look, we have certain people that are watching our shows. And I'm like, what? Yeah, whatever. All the way up to Trump, right? Trump administration, yeah, whatever. Well, there was one night, and what we used to do when we were it was basically just on Facebook, and then I added YouTube a little bit later down the road, broadcasting live, but went into the analytics in the after show there, and it would show like the top 10 viewers places, and we had discussed this, and I was like, yeah, whatever, nobody's watching this, Idaho redneck from Podunk, Idaho. And it was number 5 spot, top 5, and it said it was England. I was like, wait a minute, what the heck? And it was during the time there that Trump was over there in England, when he walked in front of the Queen and all that good stuff. It was interesting because that was the only time that it ever showed up in the top 10. We looked and looked and looked for several weeks afterwards. Never saw it on there before that. Just so happened to coincide with, the time period that Trump was over there. And so I'm like, yeah, okay. Then it might be a coincidence, whatever. And then we discussed live on the show to figure out some kind of a signal to Trump for Trump to say certain words. One was talk about treason, how this was all treason. And then the other one was kangaroo courts, to signify that they're watching our shows. And it was about 2 weeks later, Trump had come out and said, yeah, they're all kangaroo courts. And I'm like, okay, so there's just a little tidbit of a story for you folks, that certain people are watching our shows, watching this show right here, right now. And I've been informed by certain people in the U.S. Marshal Service that, after Chris was murdered, that they wanted me to keep going because they were watching and learning from me. So, that's kind of inspiring that certain key people that really need to learn some real law stuff so that it's properly enforced, especially in this time period where we're taking down the corruption. It is happening, folks. So it goes back to this whole Trump making a post about bills of attainder. Okay, I've covered that several times. There was one very special one that I did for the U.S. Marshals that asked me to speak on a particular subject there and lay this all out for them about how this is all human trafficking. How they're using the code, Roman civil law, and that it's all enforced through bills of attainder, bills of pains and penalties. It's all bills of attainder. Legislation that prescribes punishment, period. That's Bouvet's Law Dictionary, 1856. See Bill of Attainder. Don't let them, and what I mean by them is members of the bar and stuff who supposedly went to law school and are the supposed highest authority on the law, because I get this all the time as, well, did you go to law school? Do you have a license to practice law? Well, I've already debunked all of that stuff years ago. There is no license. I've even done it in court. I've had judges flat out admit there is no license to practice law and that it's a membership card to an association. So, enough with all of that garbage. The law is supposed to be written in plain English so that the average man can read it and comprehend it. Two maxims of law. Ignorance of the law is no excuse. And the other one is to know a thing and to be bound to know it are regarded in law as equivalent. So those that are bound by the Constitution, that would be Article 6, Clause 3, all of the members of the legislative, executive, and judicial, both federal and state, shall be bound by oath or affirmation to support this Constitution. Therefore, they can't claim that they don't know what the Constitution says as it is written. Because they're bound to know it. Okay? And it's high time that we start reading, folks, for ourselves, what it says as it is written. In part, this is the reason why I'm going through things like Blackstone's Commentaries on the Law of England, because the Supreme Court of the United States of America has cited it as one of the, fundamental principles of the right to keep and bear arms is the right of self-defense, which comes from nature. And then they cite Blackstone's well, I'll be darned. This is essentially, I believe, the 9th episode here of going over Blackstone's Commentaries on the Law of England, and starting with them absolute rights. Again, there are 3 primary absolute rights: the right of personal security, personal liberty, and personal property. Now, I did catch a comment out there, and I wasn't able to respond back to it. Can't even remember which platform it was on, but referring to the word person versus personal. The thing is we're talking about personal. Essentially, that actually really refers to property, which rights are an aggregate of guaranteed. Property is an aggregate of guaranteed rights, and that's the reason why it's called a common law trespass. When they violate our rights, it's a trespass. You're trespassing on our property. You're stealing my right. It's theft. Okay? But I try to get down to the root of things first, especially when it comes to rights and law. Rights as the law. In fact, right and law are synonymous. It comes from the French word droit, meaning right or law. So, the thing is how are we going to know what our rights are if we don't study them and learn them? Because they sure in the heck didn't teach me in school. And, I graduated somewhere around 1989 there. Some of you that may be watching right now weren't even born yet. Some of you were born much earlier than that. But the fact is none of us. And it's just gotten exponentially worse. What little bit they did teach me in 9th grade there ain't nothing like what needs to be taught. Which is primarily why I'm here. Trying to teach people real law. And, study and learn it for myself, right? So then I can break it down for those out there that just don't have a brain that works as well as mine does. Doesn't mean you're stupid. It doesn't mean that I'm better than you. I've humbled myself many times. I don't know it all. I don't know everything. I don't claim to know anything. Don't claim to know everything. So, but I will admit that I believe that God has given me a brilliant mind as a gift. And obviously he gave it to me for a reason. And I've had many, many, many times throughout doing all this stuff that, I've been, Randall Stone was the very first one, clear back in 2015-ish. Said, hey man, you break this stuff down so grandma can understand it. So that's a pretty unique ability to take complex things and break it down so that the average man out here can comprehend it. So I want to thank everybody that's out here watching live right now. Thank you for being here. This is we have to come together, folks. We have to learn. There is no other way around this. I mean, trust me, if there was, I'd be doing it. We have to read, we have to study, we have to learn, and we have to put in the time. And I know that it takes a lot of time. So I'm hoping that those of you that are here watching right now, you're here for the purpose of learning the truth, real law. And, I'm not perfect. Sometimes I make mistakes, but I don't have a problem admitting that I was wrong, because, there's that old saying that learn something new every day. And guess what I learned today? Well, what I learned today was what I learned yesterday was wrong. It's all about our choice of law and our sources. How many times I went through Idaho code and, way back in the day, because that's where I started really, was studying that kind of stuff, and was like, wait a minute. And even in some of the stuff that Chris and I were doing, especially when I started studying the common law there in 2019, I started finding stuff that was in conflict with what we were teaching. And here's another perfect example. We were calling it a petition of remonstrance, and it's unfortunate that I didn't find this book, Lex Parliamentaria Americana by Luther Stearns Cushion, that Mason's Manual Legislative Procedure cites from all the time in that manual. Oh my gosh, there's a difference between a petition and a remonstrance. And I'll be darned, this book right here lays out the proper format of a petition. I did a video on that, went over this particular section on petitions right out of this book, and I dumped that into the educational series over there on YouTube. So for those of you that aren't aware of that, please get over there on YouTube and watch my educational series. Even though there's quite a few things I've learned since 4+ years ago, almost 5 years ago now, when I originally did those. I mean, how could I not gain more knowledge than I had 4+ years ago, given the fact that I've been studying pretty much every single day? I mean, this is my life. This is my livelihood. This is what I do every day. I mean, you want to talk about, that's part of the reason why I'm getting burnt out, is because, dude, I spend a lot of time reading and studying. Now, I'll be honest, here lately I've kind of haven't been doing it every single day, but I can tell you ever since about 2015, 2016, yeah, pretty much every day. Right? Jay Sharon out here on Telegram, she's beginning to feel like one of the founding fathers. Learning all this common law empowers me. Absolutely. Knowledge is power. It has literally empowered me because I can speak it. I mean, you read this stuff enough, it starts getting in there, and start committing this stuff to memory. And getting these different pieces of the puzzle and start putting them together, you see the bigger picture. And once you start getting the bigger picture, it's easier to articulate these things and remember and cite law, because they all go together to make that bigger picture. And, this is the thing about studying the history of law. And even right here in Blackstone's Commentaries on the Law of England, talking about those 3 different fundamental law jurisdictions, fundamental law. Now that makes more sense. And in part referring to the Law of Nations, Book 1, Chapter 3, Section 34, where the question was asked and answered whether or not the legislature has the authority to alter the fundamental law or the Constitution. Well, wait a minute. Why is Law of Nations separating fundamental law and Constitution when technically speaking, the Constitution is part of the fundamental law. Well, now I understand why. Because technically speaking, lawfully speaking, historically speaking, there are three types of fundamental law: Roman civil law, the feudal law, and the common law. That's your three choices for a fundamental law. Why it has been said that our Constitution is part of the fundamental law, technically speaking, it's really not. It's a constitution. And when we comprehend that fundamental law is a jurisdiction, a body of law, that really meshes with the government, the form of government, as a fundamental law, how it has directly affected our form of government and has essentially turned us back into a monarchy, altering the fundamental law, which is the law of nations, the laws of nature, and the common law, versus Roman civil law, the code. I mean, we cite code all the time. United States Code, Code of Federal Regulations, Uniform Commercial Code, Idaho Code, your state code. It's all code, folks. It's all Roman civil law as a fundamental law. And that's exactly what they're talking about in the Declaration of Independence. Is fundamentally altering our form of government, subjecting us to a jurisdiction foreign to our form of government, unacknowledged by our laws, and subjecting us to pretended acts of legislation. I've exposed all of this already. I've brought up our Idaho legislature and their bills are put in there. What does it say? Being enacted by the legislature of the state of Idaho to amend the Idaho Code. Why is the legislature making amendments to the Idaho Code when they're supposed to be making statutes, policy? Think about that. That's that pretended acts of legislation. It's the same thing over and over and over again. Right? Absolutely, Leslie. We're here on Telegram. The more we learn and exercise our rights, the stronger we get. Kind of like exercise in your body. Absolutely. Plain and simple. Use it or lose it. In this case, we got to learn it in order to claim it and exercise it. Right, James? SMU. Stuff made up. Oh, poor Karen. Over here on YouTube. I needed groups like that. I get lost when I read. Not good for anyone. Well, don't be getting lost. Don't do that. Charlene out here on Telegram. Thank you. I wish more people would take advantage of the opportunity to learn what Kirk is teaching instead of worrying about the intel. Absolutely. This is so important. She says I'm Canadian and I'm here learning so I can share. Absolutely. The thing is we're talking about fundamental law. Fundamental, like mathematics. Okay, what's the fundamental law of mathematics? The plus sign, the minus sign, the multiplication sign, and division sign. I believe the fundamental principles of mathematics apply in Canada as well as it does here in America. And again, even in the Ars Confederation, Canada was supposed to be our brethren from the north. They're supposed to be part of our nation here. But no, Canada got turned back into a monarchy. I actually looked that up the other day. Yep, you're back to a monarchy. So are we. We just weren't fully informed of it, and they didn't put it in writing. They just straight up subverted it. And nobody alive today that was around when this all happened, so nobody really knows. The wool's being pulled over our eyes easily because we've all been taught wrong, or not taught at all. We've all been dumbed down. We've been all brainwashed and indoctrinated to believe this garbage is all legitimate when it's not. Right? I agree, Diesel D's, man. These Mondays and Friday shows should be packed with state assembly, state leaders, especially Friday nights. And even Monday nights. I mean, going over the law stuff, really need to get into that. But again, gotta have all of this knowledge. You gotta have all of the pieces of the puzzle. And there's gonna come a time here where we, the people, are gonna have to literally stand up, take back our republic, and claim and exercise this political power that's supposed to be inherent in the people. All of it. Well, how are we going to do that if we don't even know the basic fundamental principles of how it's supposed to work and who has what powers? Those rights. Imagine that. I mean, it's quite the conundrum, isn't it? How are we supposed to do something if we don't know how to do it? And I'm not aware of anybody else out there that's teaching this kind of stuff like I am. Now, granted, I guess there is a couple of other state people out there that are teaching some of this stuff. So it's good to hear that there is some other people out there doing it. But whew. That's a tough question. All right. Out here on Telegram. Quick question. What is the single best book we should read to better understand everything that has been done to us that we need to change and undo so it never happens again? Right? Yeah. It's not so easy of an answer because, I'll be honest, there really isn't just one book. There just isn't. I'll start with some of the basic books that I've read that help me understand all of these pieces of the puzzle that I'm putting together here. One, Treatise on Arrest and False Imprisonment. It's the number one thing I highly recommend reading. People ask, what's the first book I should be reading? That one. Treatise on Arrest and False Imprisonment. You can get that on my website, kirkslawcorner.com. Go to the library tab. It's the very first book that I have listed there. That one will waken you up a lot. The second one, Authority of Law by Charles Wiseman. Both of those are by Charles Wiseman. Then I'll be honest, right here, Blackstone's Commentaries on the Law of England. I am learning so much. And really, the pieces of the puzzle really are in this Blackstone's Commentaries on the Law of England. It's very good stuff because it's not just the common law of England. At the time period that this was written, in the early, actually it was late 1700s to the early 1800s, Blackstone incorporates, now he doesn't actually say American common law, but I have plenty of books that do, that there is a clear distinction between even the English common law and the American common law. But Blackstone talks about, Roman civil law, feudal law, original common law, which was done by the Saxon, which were the Christian Protestants, which the origin of the original common law is maxims of law and customs. But the fact is that he references in America, this is the way they do things. So not only does he teach the history behind everything that he talks about, but then he does references to us here in America, that we're a little bit different because of our Constitution, because of our law. Well, there you go. So hopefully that gets you started. Charlene says to start with the amendments. That could be a good place to start. If you're going to do the full history of the right, which will take you all the way back, essentially, between the Magna Carta, English Bill of Rights of 1689, Virginia Declaration of Rights, June 12, 1776, and then into the Bill of Rights. But a website that I peruse and read from a lot is avalon.yale.edu, or what is that one? I'll have to figure that one. And then law.cornell. avalon.law.yale.edu. Well, this is a very, 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 very good website. I have spent hours, days, months on this website. Okay? There is a plethora of information on here. Where do you want to start? You can go clear back to 4000 BC, according to this here. Read some of the ancient documents, which isn't a whole lot, is there? The Athenian Constitution, more code, but get into medieval times, which is where it's gonna. Here's the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle, Anglo-Saxon law, from early laws of the English, Z's of Clarendon, 1166. This is where the right to trial by jury actually originates from. And then, of course, Magna Carta, which they've butchered the crap out of the Magna Carta on here. Magna Carta 1215. It's not the original, and they should have just the original on here, but no. Really where things really start picking up for America is going to be right here in the 17th century, 1600s. And you're going to want to start with the first charter of Virginia, 1606, because that's the start. Right there, the first charter of Virginia, 1606. You know, a lot of people talk about the Mayflower Compact like it's some big thing. English Bill of Rights, 1689. That is a key document to read because it's the same thing over and over again. It's just at one point in time that it documents it. Right here. Mayflower Compact, 1620. Oh, yeah. Well, hate to burst people's bubbles on the Mayflower Compact, but this is it. There's not a whole lot to this. And really, to get down to it, as it's right here, a voyage to plant the first colony in the northern parts of Virginia. An advancement of the Christian faith. That's not Catholic faith. That's not Catholicism. Although some people try to construe it as that, it's not. Christianity is totally separate from Catholicism. Two different sets of ideas, ideology. In fact, there's an ideological conflict. But how they How are they going to settle in the northern parts of Virginia if Virginia didn't already exist? And what does it say? And by virtue hereof do enact, constitute, and frame such just and equal laws, ordinances, acts, constitutions, and officers from time to time as shall be thought most meet and convenient for the general good of the colony, unto which we promise all due submission and obedience. Another one, a covenant. This is unto God and one another, a covenant, and combine ourselves together into a civil body politic. Oh. All political powers inherent in the people. That's the sovereign body politic right there. So, I tell you right now, the Mayflower Compact is not that big of a deal. Really need to be reading the charters. Corporate charters. They're like constitutions. But this one right here, Ordinances for Virginia, 1621. Now that one, this is the first one in history that starts to create our American common law, our American form of government. And this is the document that creates the General Assembly. The very first document that talks about a General Assembly, that's this one, right here. Right here. Which council shall be called the General Assembly? 1621. So you got two councils. One, the Council of the State, which is going to be your governor. Yeah, see? Governor, treasurer. You know, this is the history of creating, at least the very beginning of creating our form of government that we no longer recognize today, but should be. We need to get back to these fundamental principles and, you know, how it was created, when it was created, and why it was created. What are the powers of the General Assembly? Here it is. Shall continue enforceability unless the same shall be solemnly ratified and conferred in a general quarter court of the said company here in England, so ratified. See, this gets into the general court under the General Assembly. Would that be like the court of justice in the legislative branch? Not courts of law for the judicial branch, but what? An other administration of justice. And I can tell you right now, this has been rewritten. Policy was written with an E, not with a Y, clear back in these days and times. The form of government, laws, customs, and manner of trial, and other administration of justice, used in the realm of English as near as may be, even as ourselves, by His Majesty's letters patent as are required. Yep, there it is. Right in the federal and state constitution, colonial charters, and the organic laws of the states, territories, and colonies now or hereto forming the United States of America. By Francis Newton Thorpe. That was done June 30th, 1906. I have all 7 volumes of this federal and state constitutions, colonial charters, and other organic laws of the states, territories, and now. And where does it start? 1452 or something like that, and then jumps right into 1609 with the first charter of Virginia. Real history. You know, so some of this stuff isn't in a specific book, but there would be a set of books, 7 different volumes. Really want to dig into stuff here? There you go. There's one to read. Another one to read is the documents illustrative of the formation of the Union of the American States. That's another good read. And again, I need to get these up on my website so that y'all don't have to go look for them. I already have them up there. Question over here. YouTube, wasn't General Assembly noted as needing to work 1 day a year? No. No, even in right here, they're supposed to meet at a fixed time every year, not 1 day, right? The other council, more generally, to be called the governor once yearly and no further. Where was it? It does say once yearly and no oftener, but for very extraordinary and important occasions shall consist for the present, said council of the state of Tubers. Yeah, but it wasn't for just 1 day, just like we have now once yearly. Well, some states do every other year, but what we call session every year. It's in our Constitution. But in some of the dealings with, like the right of petition, talks about that they should be assembling often. But if we're not petitioning, how are they to assemble? We're not calling them in to assemble for the redress of grievances. Yeah, 1492. Yeah, that sounds about right. I'm not exactly sure when the word, what we say is police today, is actually pronounced policy, and when it was changed. I can show you from some of these constitutions. Oh, we're gonna have to go back. We got to get into the 1700s for the constitutions, where it was written with an E. I want to say one of them was North Carolina. Right here. That the people of this state ought to have the sole and exclusive right of regulating the internal government and policy thereof. Being internal government and policy statutes. This is in Declaration of Rights, December 18th, 1776, for their Constitution of North Carolina. How about that? That all political power is vested in and derived from the people only. Yeah. I like this one. That no man or set of men are entitled to exclusive or separate emoluments or privileges from the community, but in consideration of public services. That's them no titles of nobility. Like, how about this one? That no free man shall be put to answer any criminal charge but by indictment, presentment, or impeachment. Where does it say by information? How about that no free man shall be convicted of any crime, but by the unanimous verdict of a jury of good and lawful men in open court as heretofore used. Of 12 men. Supposed to be of 12 men, but they already knew that back then. And that, here's one that's left out, that in all criminal prosecutions, every man has the right to be informed of the accusation against him, and to confront the accusers and witnesses with other testimony, and shall not be compelled to give evidence against himself. That's the accusers and witness, the actual injured party, the real party in interest here. They want to hide that one, huh? How about that no free man ought to be taken in prison or diseased of his freehold, liberties, or privilege, or outlawed, or exiled, or in any manner destroyed or deprived of his life, liberty, or property, but by the law of the land. That's as old as the Magna Carta, and that's part of that verbiage that Lysander Spooner was talking about that they altered out of the Magna Carta. How about that general warrants whereby an officer or messenger may command to search suspected places without evidence of the fact committed, or to seize any person or persons not named whose offenses are not particularly described and supported by evidence, are dangerous to liberty and ought not to be granted. Fourth Amendment stuff. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, papers, houses, and effects from unwarranted searches and seizures. Right? That every free man restrained of his liberty is entitled to remedy, to inquire into the lawfulness thereof, and to remove the same, if unlawful, and that such remedy ought not to be denied or delayed. Writ of habeas corpus. Yes, absolutely right, Diesel D's. That's the grand jury indictment right here. But by indictment, presentment, or impeachment. See? Isn't that what that says there? In the fifth? No person shall be held to answer for capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on a presentment or indictment of a grand jury. Except, okay, here is the exception to the Fifth Amendment, Article 5, Article the 5th of the Bill of Rights, the real Bill of Rights, not this fake Constitution. Here's the exception. Except in cases arising in the land or naval forces or in the militia when in actual service, in time of war or public danger. That's the only exception. Now, when we get into those otherwise infamous crimes, well, it's been said, anything over 6 months jail time. But how would you say that without that being a bill of pains and penalties? Because that would prescribe a punishment prior to any judgment or conviction. So in my Criminal Practice Act of 1864 here in the first legislative session of the Territory of Idaho, it says they're all supposed to be done by indictment. That's either a felony or a misdemeanor, and everything is a misdemeanor. And you have to have a presentment or indictment of a grand jury. So for any felony or misdemeanor, essentially any so-called crimes, period, is supposed to be done through a grand jury. James says the grand jury's lost at sea. No, it's not. It's lost in our minds. We, the people, form the grand jury on the land. law of the land, common law of the land. Yep. Right, James? Shire of the Reef, Sharif. Absolutely. But, I mean, here it is in the Fifth Amendment. But it doesn't say by information. Oh, but the Idaho Constitution does. Right? This is where they've subverted the law. Is it here? No. Can't remember. Oh, yeah, it is right here. It's in our Declaration of Rights. Prosecution only by indictment or information. Nope. That comes in conflict with the Fifth. No person shall be held to answer for any felony or criminal offense of any grade unless on presentment or indictment of a grand jury or on information of the public prosecutor after a commitment by a magistrate, except in cases of impeachment, in cases cognizable by probate courts or by justices of the peace, and in cases arising in the militia when in actual service in time of war or public danger. See, there's that exception in there. See, and that's the thing is they've added this. This is Roman civil law. It's all enforced by bills of pains and penalties. Bouvet's Law Dictionary 1856 lays that out. So under prosecution by information, information of the public prosecutor, after a commitment by a magistrate, right? On information of the public prosecutor after a commitment by a magistrate. Well, I go back to Article 6, Clause 2, which they're supposed to be bound by. And we're not even getting into Blackstone's tonight yet. This Constitution and laws of the United States which shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all treaties made which shall be made under the authority of the United States shall be the supreme law of the land. And the judges in every state shall be bound thereby. Anything in the Constitution or laws of any state to the contrary notwithstanding. That makes this, or on information of the public prosecutor after commitment by a magistrate, void for any effect. Marbury versus Madison is there's your case law that reaffirms what Article 6, Clause 2 already says. Anything that comes in conflict with the supreme law of the land is void for any effect. From its inception, void ab initio. But what are they citing? Article 6, Clause 2. If it's not the supreme law of the land, if a state constitution which is law of the land can come in conflict with it. But this is where they go with, well, the Bill of Rights doesn't apply to the states except for by and through the 14th Amendment. Hogwash. But this is where you have to get into, I can't remember if this one I got here is Bill of Rights or not. My buddy brought me another one.
Oh no, this is the Declaration of Independence. No, Declaration of Independence, that's not the one.
But the original Bill of Rights, at the top portion, it specifically says that these are articles in addition to an amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America. So, But there's also, okay, well, why does the 10th Amendment say what it says? Well, start with the 9th, okay? Because that's what they're doing. The enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. What do you mean the enumeration in the Constitution? Because this is a Bill of Rights, and these are articles in addition to. This was made pursuant to Article 5. That's why it's made pursuant to the Constitution. This is law made pursuant to the Constitution. Not statutes, not enactments of the legislature, Congress. No. Law made pursuant to this Constitution. So there's another point right there. The enumeration in the Constitution. How is this not part of the Constitution? Then the 10th. The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. And like I always like to talk about here, before we talk about powers delegated to either federal or state, let's talk about the powers belonging to the people, like all political powers inherent in the people, that our rights are retained by the people. Well, again, the thing is we have to understand that the fundamental law has been altered. I have to understand this, guys. Section 34. This is Book 1, Chapter 3, Section 34 of the Law of Nations. Come on. One more. Of the legislative power and whether it can change the Constitution. Here again, a very important question presents itself. It essentially belongs to the society to make laws, both in relation to the manner in which it desires to be governed and to the conduct of the citizens. Okay. Now, this is where we have to go down to Section 212. Well, who in the heck is a citizen? That's the members of a civil society who are bound. That's the public servants. That's Article 6, Clause 3. They are the citizens. Okay? This is called the legislative power. Right? The nation may entrust the exercise of it to the prince or to an assembly, or to that assembly and the prince jointly, who have then a right to make new laws and to repeal old ones. It is asked whether their power extends to the fundamental laws, whether they may change the constitution of the state. The principles we have laid down lead us to decide with certainty that the authority of these legislators does not extend so far, and that they ought to consider the fundamental laws as sacred if the nation has not, in very express terms, given them power to change them. For the constitution of the state ought to possess stability, and since that was first established by the nation, which afterwards entrusted certain persons, with the legislative power, the fundamental laws are excepted from their commission. It is visible that the society only intended to make provision for having the state constantly furnished with laws suited to particular conjunctures, like subject matter jurisdiction, and for that purpose gave the legislature the power of abrogating the ancient civil and political laws that were not fundamental, and of making new ones. But nothing leads us to think that it meant to submit the Constitution itself to their will. In short, it is from the Constitution that those legislators derive their power. How then can they change it without destroying the foundation of their own authority? By the fundamental laws of England, the two houses of Parliament, in concert with the king, exercise the legislative power. But if the two houses should resolve to suppress themselves and to invest the king with full and absolute authority, certainly the nation would not suffer it. And who would dare to assert that they would not have a right to oppose it? Imagine that. Yeah. To answer a question out here on Rumble, thanks for all your reading and videos. I've learned so much. I appreciate it. I want to know if they all know the law and are doing it on purpose for money, or are they ignorant of the law? For a very long time, I was angry at police officers, judges, prosecutors, and all this stuff. And after starting to study this stuff and getting in here, wait a minute, they don't. We've all been lied to. We've all been brainwashed and indoctrinated. And that's the thing is, they've been, police officers, they've been indoctrinated. They go to their, post-academy training there and supposed to be taught the law and stuff, and they're taught the 4th, 5th, and 6th Amendment. They're taught things like the Terry versus Ohio and Miranda versus Arizona. They're taught this stuff, but it doesn't click with them. They think that what they're doing is okay, which is exactly why I say go back and the first thing to read is a treatise on arrest and false imprisonment, because it's heavy on the common law. And it teaches us that no, any arrest of a liberty is constitutes as an arrest. Any deprivation of our liberty constitutes an arrest. And if it's not done lawfully, it becomes false imprisonment. Blackstone's Commentaries on the Law talks about that same exact phrase right there. It becomes false imprisonment when it's done without lawful authority and pursuant to the law of the land. Right? Supreme law of the land. Common law of the land. Even Blackstone lays it out. Lysander Spooner talks about it. Many different places throughout history that call it the common law of the land. So, right? It's just, this is a reason why I'm sitting here reading this stuff and trying to kind of lay some of this stuff out and expose the corruption itself, goes way back, further than anyone alive today. Right? What I found in Idaho, 1881. Okay? And let me just pull that sucker up, just to show it to you. You know, document. It should be in the organic law. And it was in the 11th legislative session for the territory of Idaho. This is the Code of Civil Procedure. This is when they did this in Idaho and implemented the Roman civil law. Now, right here, Section 3, the rule of the common law, that statutes and derogation thereof are to be strictly construed, has no application to this code, capital C. The code establishes the law of this territory, respecting the subjects to which it relates, and its provisions and all proceedings under it are to be liberally construed with the view to effect its objects and to promote justice. Did they just not alter the fundamental law right here? Here's the proof. Right here, in black and white. Here's the evidence. Okay? And this is before our Idaho Constitution. You know, our Idaho Constitution wasn't done until 1889, supposedly ratified by the people in 1890. This is 1881. So I basically just answered your question, Karen, out there on YouTube. That's an Idaho Constitution, yes? No. This is legislative session. The 11th legislative session of the territory of Idaho. Before it became the state of Idaho. Yeah, so I mean, it's, you know, and this is the crazy part. Let me show you here. It says Idaho statutes, right? Idaho statutes. Supposedly these are the Idaho statutes, right? But then let's go into here. Title 1, Chapter 1, very, very beginning of the Idaho Code. Yeah. Courts enumerated. What does it say? Courts enumerated. The following are the courts of justice of this state. The courts of justice. Courts of justice are common law. The Supreme Court, the Court of Appeals, the District Courts, the Magistrate Division, the District Courts. What's the history of this? CCP 1881, Section 17. No. How about, first and foremost, we want to go back to this Organic Act, Organic Act for the territory of Idaho. That's in this first legislative session, but there's the Criminal Practice Act, and then there's the Civil Practice Act. But here's the Organic Act for the territory of Idaho, and this is the law of creation for the temporary government for Idaho, but this is from Congress. Congress writes this. That's part of that Article 4, Section 3 and Article 4, Section 4 to guarantee that Republican form of government. This is how it's supposed to be done, pursuant to the supreme law of the land. But we get down in here to Section 9. And be it further enacted, the judicial power of said territory shall be vested in a Supreme Court district courts, probate courts, and in justices of the peace. That's it. Because the Supreme Court's created by the Constitution itself. That'd be Article 3. So, they're altering the organic law. They subverted the organic law. Period. And what does it talk about for jurisdictions down here? How about said Supreme and District Courts respectively shall possess chancery as well as common law jurisdiction. Would that be probate courts and of justices of the peace? Common law courts? You know, this is another part that totally destroys these members of the bar's argument that, well, common law is stare decisis, it's case law. Well, then, how in the hell does the 7th article of the Bill of Rights say suits at common law? Why does the Organic Act for the Territory of Idaho talk about a jurisdiction known as common law jurisdiction? How we get suits at case law? Doesn't make any sense. So there's a problem there, isn't there? Does anybody see the problem there? What this really means over here is that these courts are all created under the Code of Civil Procedure Act, and they're all Roman civil law courts, back under the monarchy, enforcing Roman civil law, the code. Then they get into revised statutes, revised code, codified law, codified statutes, code, Idaho Code annotated. This has happened in all of the 50 states of the Union, plus Congress. Right? United States Code, Code of Federal Regulations, Uniform Commercial Code. It doesn't belong here. That's foreign to our form of government. It's a foreign jurisdiction. No. I hear on YouTube, probate and probation is them taking your birthrights and freedoms from you and your estate and trust and assets from you. Technically speaking, probate courts are supposed to be for land. Those are the suits in equity, having an equitable interest in land. Yeah, your estate. True. That's what probate courts are supposed to be. Dealing with real estate, property. Otherwise, everything's supposed to be done that suits at common law. There's basically two criminal jurisdictions. Well, what are those two criminal jurisdictions? Whoops. So many people misread Article 3 thinking that that I want an Article 3 court. I want an Article 3 court. Okay, well, let's read Article 3 because what does it say? The judicial power of the United States. So the judicial power of the United States that's being delegated here shall be vested in one Supreme Court and in such inferior courts as Congress may from time to time ordain and establish. If they're inferior courts of the judicial power vested here, it can't exceed the power vested here. What is the power vested here? The judicial power shall extend to all cases in law and in equity arising under this Constitution, the laws of the United States and the treaties made or which shall be made under their authority, to all cases affecting ambassadors. This is personal jurisdiction. So, affecting ambassadors or other public ministers and consuls. To all cases of, here we go, admiralty and maritime jurisdiction. To controversies to which the United States shall be a party. To controversies between two or more states. Blah, 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 blah. And what is it? Between citizens of the same state claiming lands under grants of different states and between a state or citizens thereof and foreign state citizens. That has to do with land. I don't see any other jurisdiction. I don't want an Article 3 court, which is admiralty jurisdiction, for suits in law. Now, the other jurisdiction, criminal jurisdiction, is right here. In suits at common law, where the value in controversy shall exceed $20, right to trial by jury shall be preserved, and no fact tried by a jury shall be otherwise re-examined in any court of the United States than according to the rules of the common law. Would that include or exclude any of those courts? Those inferior courts? They're all courts of the United States. Our common law courts is the common law side, which is outside of the Constitution. And what they try to tell us here, this just means that you have the right to trial by jury in civil, that this is civil and that that's criminal. No. This is suits at common law, and this is suits in law and in equity. Does everybody see the difference? In law, that's policy. Those that are bound by it and subject to its authority. Does that make sense? So, this is the thing about the so-called Seventh Amendment. Suits at common law. Why do you think it was that we had the right to where is that? Right here. That in all criminal prosecutions, every man has the right to be informed of the accusation against him and to confront the accusers and witness with other testimony. That's criminal. This is a suit at common law. No, what this means is that if it goes over $20, if it's over $20, then you have a right to trial by jury because you're being deprived of property. That doesn't mean civil. It can be criminal in nature or civil in nature, because now we're talking in nature. That suits at common law. Murder, rape, kidnapping, That's all common law. Fraud, that's common law. Breaches of peace, assaults and batteries, that's common law. Read Treatise on Arrest and False Imprisonment. Absolutely, Mark. Perfect. Man-made law is in law, policy. Not God's law, not nature's law, not the laws of nature is the proper phrase. Laws of nature. Some may refer to natural law, but it is pronounced law of nature, laws of nature. Ha, perfect. Yeah, great. Oscar out here on Telegram. Great one. Great analogy. Just like your in-laws, you're not in their jurisdiction, or I would say, I'm adding this, in their family, unless you subject to them. Consent, whatever. Subject yourself to them. Yeah, just because you get married, those are still your in-laws. They're not really your mother and father. They're not your biological mother and father. So you're not in that family other than by marriage. Right? So, again, reading this stuff for ourselves and fully comprehending this is the power. Knowledge is power. Without this knowledge, bring this up to a member of the bar. Say, oh, well, common law, that's stare decisis. Well, can you explain why the Seventh Amendment says suits at common law? So you're saying that suits at case law? And then why does Article 3, Section 2 talk about suits in law? Is there a difference between suits in law and suits at common law? Watch them fall apart. Well, you just don't know. You need to learn some more. That's what I was told. I'm like, yeah. Who's the one that needs to learn some more when I'm the one citing this stuff off the top of my head and you can't answer the question and explain it? Because the answer you gave about common law is stare decisis, well, that's odd because Blackstone's Commentary on the Law of England, Blackstone don't agree with you. The ancient Saxons, they don't agree with you. I don't agree with you. It's a lie. More stuff made up by the bar. Right, Oscar? Yeah, adds a. They're not at laws. They're your in-laws. Yeah. Right? Here's a good one out here, YouTube. If the law of the land is against us, then I need the land to get on the witness stand because the law of the land is my accuser. State of is what they'll put in their so-called criminal complaints. State of Idaho versus me or whatever. Well, the state of Idaho can't do that. It can't be the accuser because the state of Idaho can't take the stand because the state of Idaho is a fiction. Mark Bond out here is citing the laws of nature from Cruden versus Neal. every man is independent of all laws except those prescribed by nature. I would go right straight to law of nations. Some law. Not some case. Straight out of the law of nations, because that's basically what it says in the law of nations regarding the laws of nature. You gotta cite some law. I could care less about a case. But it would be interesting to dissect that case and find out just what body of law they're citing. See, this is what people don't get about so-called case law. It's the law of the case, and only applies to the parties to the case because that's a contract. You're not a party to that case, you're not a party to the contract, it doesn't apply. Okay? This is why you'll hear them judges talking about all the time. Oh, the merits of the case aren't the same. What do you mean merits of the case? What's the question? What's the question of law that's being asked and answered? And when they cite the law, just like in New York State Rifle Pistol Association versus Bruin, citing Blackstone's commentary on the law of England, citing the right to keep and bear arms comes from the laws of nature as the fundamental right of self-defense. Huh. So I guess we could go to Blackstone's, which is only still talking about the laws of nature. Now, that's how to use a case. Forget the case after you figure out the law that they've cited. Keep the case for the example of what was the question asked and answered here. So in New York State Rifle Pistol Association, the question that was asked was, does the state legislature have the authority to basically license the right to keep and bear arms? Do we have to seek permission from the chief of police, fill out this form and put reasons why we want to either open or concealed, because New York and I guess a total of 9 states have this same kind of legislation. Well, not no more, because the Supreme Court declared that unlawful and unconstitutional. Now, here's another little tidbit out of that particular case that I gleaned from that was, this is, again, prima facie evidence that we're going back to real law, is they told all these members of the bar that were, amicus curiae and all jumping in all on this case because, oh, no, we have the right to do that. See here, this old statute here says, and here's the statute, here's it. No. Supreme Court said, look, we don't care about any statutes. We don't care about any case law. We're going back to what the intent of the founders were when they wrote the Second Amendment and what the law was at the time it was written. Law, not statutes, not your code, and not any case law. Uh-oh. See where they're going with this, folks? This is why I do what I do. I'm going back to law and the history of the right. And let's see what it says. Now, there is one thing that they did cite, was the English Bill of Rights of 1689. Okay? Well, except for this part right here, but we can't really find anything on this. Well, why don't you look at the First Charter of Virginia, 1606. It says we have the right to have arms while out on adventure. Clear back to 1606, we've had the right to keep and bear arms. It was right here in the very beginning. Right here. By causing several good subjects, being Protestants, to be disarmed at the same time while Papists were both armed and employed contrary to law. That's when they were one of the ones they cited from a Bill of Rights, that we have the right to keep and bear arms. And you were told back then in 1689 that you cannot deprive us of our right to keep and bear arms. in 1689. You know, just again pointing this stuff out that the Supreme Court and trying to hammer this home about using case law. Go get the law that they're citing in there. Go down the rabbit hole. Okay? And that particular case will bring you right to here. But I didn't see anything they didn't cite anything like the first charter of Virginia. I know this was kind of hard to find, but it is in here. I've read it. I think this is part of it right here. And we do likewise for us, our heirs, successors, by these presents, give full power and authority to the said Sir Thomas Gates, Sir George Somers, blah, 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 all these people, said several companies, plantations, and colonies, that they and every of them shall, and may, at all and every time and times hereinafter have, take, and lead in the said voyage, and for and towards the said several plantations and colonies, and to travel thitherward, and to abide and inhabit there, in every the said colonies and plantations, such and so many of our subjects, and shall willingly accompany them or any of them in the said voyages and plantations, with sufficient shipping and furniture of armor, weapons, ordnances, powder, victual, and all other things necessary for the said plantations, and for their use and defense there, provided always that none of the said persons be such as shall hereinafter be specially restrained by us, our heirs or successors. In other words, right to keep and bear arms. That they are restrained. There was another one here. Shall and may from time to time and all times hereinafter have their several defenses to counter, expose, repel, resist, as well by sea as by land, by all ways and means whatsoever, and every such person or persons, and without the especial license of the said several colonies. Gee, were they trying to tell us that we had to have a license to carry arms back then? And here they're saying we don't, without the license. And this is talking about the right of defense. For their several defenses. So I didn't read any of that in there. But see, this is what I'm talking about. Here's history of law. And what does it say? Sure looks like we have the right to keep and bear arms clear back in 1606 with the first charter of Virginia here in America. Does anybody disagree? But, here it is in writing. I sure didn't see any of this in there as a history of the right. Because this is 1606. That's long before the English Bill of Rights of 1689. And especially that right here. As without the especial license of the said several colonies and plantations shall attempt to inhabit within the said several precincts and limits of the said several colonies and plantations, or any of them, or that shall enterprise or attempt at any time hereafter the hurt, detriment, or annoyance of the said several colonies or plantations. But this all goes all one sentence. This is all one sentence. So it all goes together. Likewise up here. I believe this is all one sentence right down to here. And then you got a semicolon, which is a break. And the rest of it, this is the contrary, right? So this is saying, no, you can't do that. Over here on Telegram asking about posting the 2 books, we should start with, go to my website, kirkslawcorner.com. kirkslawcorner.com. Go to the library tab. Got a plethora of books here. In a chronological order of things. This is the common law. Whoops. This is a good place to start reading to learn the basics of the American common law and the law of nations, or the principles of the laws of nature as international law. These are the first, start right here. Treatise on arrest and false imprisonment, the authority of law, the law of nations, and then get into that report of the Commission on Unalienable Rights. Now, I have gone through a little bit more of this, and there's a lot of it I don't really care for in there, but there's some main parts in there that lay it out, that even our rights, property, and aggregate of guaranteed rights. Our rights are our property. That's in this report of the Commission on Unalienable Rights. As well as the right to keep and bear arms. The right to contract our labor as we see fit, and we're entitled to the entire fruits of our labor. That means no taxation on labor. That's not income. That's the fruits of our labor. Mark Vaughn out here on YouTube. Hey, British, not sugar. You get no tea. Oh. Yeah, I know, Karen, talking about people are not persons. Well, yes and no. So let me, while I'm right here, did I actually have that one up? No. I did, but I have to go back. English Bill of Rights of 1689 actually exposes this right here. Present, right? Unto their majesties, then called and known by the names and style. So we got names and style. 2 different things. So the names of William and Mary, and then the style is Prince and Princess of Orange, being present in their proper persons. That's in propria persona. Person. In their proper person. What's the person? Prince and Princess of Orange. Because their names are William and Mary, and the style, being in their proper persons, is Prince and Princess of Orange. That's the person. Can even go so far as saying mother and father is persons. But then, is there personal jurisdiction over mother and father? No. The trickery under Roman civil law is parens patriae. The state is the parent. That's why they use parent and child. That's Roman civil law. Common law is mother, father, sons, and daughters. different jurisdictions, different bodies of law. But perfect example right here of what a person is. And notice they're not using last names or middle names. This is their names. William and Mary. So my name is Kirk. That's it. I'm of the Pendergrass family. But that's not our true God-given Christian name. You see, back in the day, per the common law, you're supposed to publish it in the newspaper in the public notice section that a son or daughter was born to William and Mary of the Pendergrass family. Uh-oh. It was also supposed to be documented in the family Bible. No birth certificate. Your announcement in the newspaper was the public notice, and it was recorded. And then, when they come around to do the census, that's part of the Constitution that they actually kind of got rid of there, but it's still there. That's when it was recorded that you had a son or daughter in the census. A record. Not registering, but recording. But again, it was published in the newspaper. It was recorded in your family Bible. Believe it or not, my name's recorded in our family Bible that way. Now here on Rumble, all caps, false okay. Persons are owned because they have a creator. Well, I agree to a certain extent, but mother and father. Mother and father are the sovereign over that which they create, because sovereign is a creator. This is why the people are the sovereign body politic, the power to create the legislature, the executive, the judicial branch of government, the actual Constitution. The people are supposed to create that. So that's the sovereign body politic. And then the people delegate some of their sovereignty to, while still being able to provide oversight, the right to alter, reform, or abolish anything at any time we deem it necessary, which gets back to that right to a trial by jury, where the jury has the power to judge both the law and the facts. That's how we're supposed to maintain the law. That's how we're supposed to maintain, rein in the legislative power to keep them in check through a trial by jury. Well, so much for getting to Blackstone tonight. But it's just going with the flow tonight. Wherever God led me tonight. Again, none of this was pre-planned, all going off of questions and where you guys are leading me, and I'm showing you history of law. How we got here is it's all your fault. So, kirkslawcorner.com. All these different books you can read from, and again, I will get this fixed because this is broken. There's no longer a link to this. And saying before, we had did some updates to the website on the backside. Changed the mission to this to be a mission statement as soon as it gets there. Educating the people on what our rights are, where they come from, and how to effectively claim, exercise, and defend them following due process of law. Okay? That's the mission statement for Kirk's Law Corner LLC. All right, so on the home page here, there's a link to Facebook, Telegram, Patreon, YouTube, Rumble, and now on X, broadcasting live on all five right now. So those are the social media apps that I'm on, broadcasting. You can watch on your favorite platform. For the most part, I do a lot of posting on my Telegram channel. The only thing that's really on Rumble is videos. YouTube is videos. I do a tiny bit of cross-posting over here on X now, Twitter, formerly known as Twitter. What, Karen, you had a question? Post your question. I'll come back to you in a minute. Now, Patreon, for those of you that want to help support digitally, you could subscribe over there, whatever you want to, basically donate per month, or have it set up for tier 1 and tier 2. One's $5 a month, the other's $10 a month. Essentially a cup of coffee a month. Okay? Being as I've been taken down on the digital side of things, PayPal and Cash App, and I don't know. I've looked at some of these other ones. I still really just can't make up my mind to even try to do it. But then if tier 3, if you want to get into Wednesday night workshop private classes where I go more in depth on how to effectively defend yourself and getting in on some of the stuff we're working on, what I'm doing, trying to teach other people how to do this too, but that's tier 3. If you need one-on-one time with me, that's tier 4. Okay? For those out there asking for my strict attention, needing my help, direct help, that's where to go. Patreon, tier 4. From there, otherwise, donations directly to the office. Send it to me, Kirk Pendergrass, at 6477 West Fairview Avenue, Suite G, Boise, Idaho, 83704. No longer Suite C. I moved upstairs. So, I did get this fixed. This was the other thing that we worked on. This join our email list. You can put your name and email to join on that. Again, I will never sell that list. In fact, I still haven't done anything with it. So, may come a day here, surprise everybody, and send out an email just to say hi and check it and make sure that it works. But I will not spam you. I'll not sell your email address to anybody. This just stays private over here. No way. No way, Jose. There, yeah, you can click on this down here too to join me on Patreon for Wednesday night workshop as well. That's Patreon. So there's another link to Patreon at the bottom here. Okay. Other than that, over at the office, any postal money orders, regular money orders, cash wrapped in aluminum foil, gold, silver coinage, send that over to the office, please. And want to thank past donations I've received. Thank you all out there that have done that. Would like to point out that this website down here, website by Miles at divina.website, you can click on that, I believe, and get to him. Let me see what happens here. We'll open that in a new tab. See if that takes you to able to contact Miles. Yeah, possibly. Yep. But yeah, if you want to get a hold of Miles, let me know if you want any help with your website like he's done on mine. Greatly appreciate Miles and Dave out there that helped with this stuff on the backside, the email stuff. We spent a few hours in a Zoom meeting, and a few hours after that, Miles and Dave worked together on that. So Thank you, brothers, for doing that. And then I want to remind people about the National Assembly. National-assembly.net. Every Thursday night, we got the conference call. Click on the conference call info tab. Now, right here, join the online meeting. That's the link. You can just directly click on that. After you've downloaded and installed the free conference call app, which I highly recommend you download and install the app. If you want to learn how to do that, here's some tutorial videos for smartphones on YouTube, and then a tutorial for desktop computers and laptops and tablets. YouTube video there. Okay? And to get the app, you just go to freeconferencecall.com. Download and install the app. I'm pretty sure that's all going to be in here. If it's on your phone, you're going to want to go to your app store, whether that's your iPhone or Android. Download and install the app. Highly recommend installing the app, even if you're just going to use your phone. Okay? Now, I get there's some people out there that don't have smartphones. This is what the dial-in number is for. Those that don't have smartphones, that don't have desktops or computers, But again, I highly recommend getting the app and downloading the app on your phone, on your computer, and installing it. And then once you click on this once, National Assembly is actually your online meeting ID, which will show up in your app. Once you click on it once, it'll save it there. And then you just got to go back on there and log in. The other thing is the first part of it is the assembly business stuff where we take roll call, that kind of stuff. And then we go into the general discussion education part of the call. And it's been fairly good the last month or so where we've been doing presentations, PowerPoints or whatever. Bill does an excellent job. Oscar's been doing a couple. I've done a couple. Yeah, I may actually just dump Friday nights because it's so overwhelming. For me, it's Monday nights here, Wednesday night workshop, then Thursday night here, and then Friday night again. Tuesday nights are basically my only free night, aside from Saturdays and Sundays. But I don't know. Get into the forums and blog. You get in here, you can get to your state level. Get down into here to make your announcements right here. The 50 nation states. Whatever state you're in, you can click on that. Here's your introductions. Then you have the general chat. And your historical documents. But this is where you would introduce yourself and go, hey, who's the coordinator here? Or it might actually be in there. How to contact the coordinator or moderator or secretary for the state to get in with the people. Okay? This is how to get in contact with the people of your state. Now, granted, clearly, January 6, 2023, by the state coordinator. Now, I don't know if that's still the state coordinator for Alabama. If not, content manager 1@yahoo.com. That's an email. Say, hey, I'm from Alabama. Who's the coordinator? What's an email contact? How do I get a hold of the Alabama General Assembly? How do I get a hold of them? But we really need to be utilizing this forum and start contacting each other through that forum. Get on the national-assembly.net website. Get in here into your state forums. I wonder if nobody's done anything in here since I posted. February 10th, 2024. So if you're in Idaho and you want to get in contact with me, it's right here. Go to the Idaho, which is in the forums. Scroll down to the 50 nation states. Go to the Idaho tab and go in there and introduce yourself. And I posted in both places, but yep, I did it right here. Idaho coordinator. There you go. And then you can send me an email right here. Idaho de jure at protonmail.com. If you're in Idaho, you want to get on board with what's going on here. And then there's the, where is it? Back to Idaho General Chat. I put that in the general chat right here. And nobody's responded to it or anything, but it's there. Okay? All right. Karen, did you put your question in there? I missed it. Okay. All right. God bless everybody out there. God bless America. God bless the world. Everybody. For you prayer warriors out there, thank you all for your prayers. Prayers not just for me, but for everybody. Keep praying. It's coming, folks. One day at a time. We're getting a little bit closer and a little bit closer. I'm telling you. There's stuff going on. It has been going on, but there's some big stuff coming. There's some big stuff coming. I'm telling you, folks. Been laying it out for years, and it's about go time. So, have a wonderful night, folks, and we'll see you, Patreon folks, there Wednesday night, and the rest of you, please get on the free conference call Thursday night calls for the National Assembly stuff. Please get active, get involved. We really need to reassemble government de jure, because when it does happen, they come in and basically full-on declare martial law and take down the corrupt nationwide. And I'm talking like governors, the entire legislature, your, sheriffs and police and everybody that's corrupt. We're not going to have much of a government. We'll stay under martial law unless you already got the prerequisites done. Then we can come out of interim and hold some real elections. But I think we need to revisit the Constitution stuff first. Which, by the way, some of that's in the works. But not going to talk too much about that right here, right now. One day. Someday. Okay? Please come together. Get together. Get in with the General Jural Assembly. Do the documents. Get reassembled. All right? God bless. Have a wonderful night. And thank you all for being here. We'll see you next